activated. Your weekly football fix kicks off now.
You can follow the LFC Total Red Football Podcast on X, Facebook, YouTube and TikTok.
Good evening and welcome to the LFC Total Red Football Podcast with myself, Kings. Joining me tonight, we've got Ritchie. And what an explosive few days it's been at LFC. Cannot believe it. If you'd have said a few months ago when they were lifting the Premier League trophy that unfortunately Jota was going to sadly pass away, people were going to get injured when they drive into them at the parade. The form has gone out the window and it's right down the pan. And now Mo Salah has added more fuel to the fire of what's going wrong at LFC with an outburst after the Leeds United draw, which has sent shockwaves, I think, around the whole world of football. I don't know. This season so far has been, or since the summer, has been a disaster for LFC. Rich, first off, how are you?
I'm all right, doing a lot better than what Liverpool are doing. Yeah, like you said, who would have thought this 3 or 4 months ago? Even at the start of the season when we started really well.
Yeah. I mean, we'll obviously start straight away with that. That's pretty much the conversation. I could have come on here and talked about draws and losses and slot under pressure, etc. All that's gone out the window, obviously. Mohamed Salah had a chat with the press, which he doesn't normally do, especially in the mixed area after the Leeds United game, and said it feels like he's been thrown to the bus, as you can see there on the ticker tape going across the bottom, and his relationship with head coach Arne Slot has broken down. I don't think anybody expected that. We all know that Salah's been on the bench. There's been pundits saying maybe it's because he's not playing well, the team isn't playing well. I've got to be fair to say it's proved the point that it's not just him. The team haven't played well when he hasn't been playing. So, most of the pundits in a way can stop that attitude because it's not just that. There is a major problem with the team, as we can see. But for Mo Salah to come out and talk like that, saying the relationship's pretty much gone and he thinks that somebody wants him out at the club, I mean, that was a major, major bombshell, wasn't it?
Yeah, and, Salah comes out and speaks after a defeat. He shows that warrior mentality, and, after a defeat, he promises on Twitter that they'll come back stronger. Very rarely is there anything negative to do with the club. We know that obviously he and his agent spin contract talks quite a lot. He was more out than in, if you remember, not so long ago. Yeah. And the situation again is now he looks more out than in again, 6 months, 7 months later. So, I mean, it was, at first, I thought it was AI. I was like, oh, that's a really good AI job, because it was so unexpected. I didn't expect him to come out and do that. I thought his quotes were very interesting in terms of someone in the club wants him out. That's someone only he would know. Interesting, he didn't directly go for the manager, although obviously he has mentioned that as well. So is it, again, it's all speculation, and maybe in a book it will come out 10 years down the line, but it's not very happy times for what is, an absolute Liverpool legend at this moment in time. And like I said, complete turnaround from what we would have thought, from what we saw last season. And you're quite right. He has had a dip in form. I thought Virgil van Dijk actually has recently come out with some really interesting comments. It's not like you have unlimited credit. Everyone has to perform. Now, Mo hasn't performed this season. I do believe he has good points in terms of he's been made out to be a scapegoat by some. I do believe that is true. He's attacked the media, saying, liking him really to Harry Kane when he has bad spells. So I think he was just firing on all cylinders. He has himself to defend, but then also how much does he look inside? It's the first time in his Liverpool tenure he was dropped for 2 Premier League games in a row. He's now been dropped for 3. I mean, his form hasn't been great. It really hasn't.
No.
But then again, there's only really a handful of Liverpool players this season who actually can come out with some credit in what I think. And again, please, add some more. But Szoboszlai, Ekitike, Chiesa, I think they can hold their heads high, who are consistent performers and want that. Gravenberch at the start of the season was phenomenal as well. I think Jones coming in has done a really good job too. So there are a handful of players who have been playing well, but Mo, unfortunately, he isn't one of them. And it is the first rough patch he's experienced as a Liverpool player. And obviously it's weighing him down. It would have been interesting if this was midway, a midway point in the season where he's banged in 10 goals and already got 8 assists. The fact that those numbers are dwindled and it's really still towards the start of the season, it just looks like a little bit of a slump that I don't think he's going to have a chance to get out of, because, we already know he's not in the travelling squad for tomorrow, which for me, when I read that, that's when today I read that and I was like, okay, this is actually an issue now, because he trained today. He's not in the squad for tomorrow. Why?
Yeah, because we know he's fit. I mean, I'm just looking at parts of what he said. So obviously I'm going to pick out, he said, I said many times before that I've had a good relationship with the manager, and all of a sudden we don't have any relationship. I don't know why, but it seems to me, how I see it, that somebody doesn't want me in the club. It seems like the club has thrown me under the bus. That is how I'm feeling. I think it's very clear that someone wants me to get all of the blame. Now, when you look, as we said, previously, Salah, he PFA player of the year for last season, 29 goals, 18 assists, golden boot, league winning title. It's phenomenal. And we're all just like, we signed a new contract. Everything's rosy. Great. I honestly don't know what the form is about. We do know he was quite close with Diogo Jota, and that's affected him a lot. We know that. And I'm sure it's affected all the players who knew him. So you think, okay, we'll cut everybody some slack. And it's just the way it is. You've got to kind of grieve in your own way. And I will give him credit for that, and all the players who knew Diogo Jota. Of course, we can't tell them when you should be feeling better, if you like. But you see all the pundits maybe suggesting, Salah needs to be dropped, etc., because Liverpool aren't playing well. So he drops him to the bench, and Liverpool really don't play that well still. So it's definitely not on his shoulders alone. Van Dijk hasn't performed that well. Unfortunately, we don't have a ready-made replacement to drop in for Virgil van Dijk, where maybe Salah's position, you can change it round a bit. So I suppose that's why it seems you can just put Virts over there, or Chiesa, or whoever he chooses. For him to come out like that, I mean, I was exactly like you say, Rich. I thought it was maybe AI at first, and I was thinking, well, that's not, because we know he doesn't really talk to the press that much. But then when you look at how it's come out now, and it seems to be, more quotes in the press today, it seems to be expanded slightly. But I did notice there was one quote, I think, last season when he had an issue with Klopp. And it says, "If I speak, there will be fire." And it makes me think, right, so he wanted to say something then, and he didn't. He held his tongue. And I'm not having a go at him as such, but I think, well, is the problem the manager, or is the problem Salah and his agent? Because that's a different manager under Klopp, and he was going to say something and bit his tongue. And I know it's frustrating. He's on the bench, but you're only as good as your last game. He's a legend for Liverpool, but that doesn't give you unlimited credit to be, I'm automatically picked, which I kind of felt he was suggesting. I've earned my place. And it's like he's earned his status at Liverpool as a legend. But if you're not performing this season, you can't just expect to start, can you?
No. And it's like any walk in life, isn't it? Yes, you earn those credits, and he will always, for me, be a top 3 club legend behind Stevie G and that man behind your shoulder, Kenny Dalglish. They are, to me, the 2 biggest icons in Liverpool Football Club history in terms of players. Then you could add the likes of Bill Shankly, Bob Paisley, Joe Fagan, etc. as managers, and Jurgen. But at the same time, if you're not playing, like any walk in any profession, if you're not performing, then you are held accountable, and quite rightly so.
Yeah.
He doesn't have, I don't think, any. When he was dropped, I thought, fair play to Arnie, because yes, he deserved to be dropped. And listen, there are plenty of players who deserve to be dropped as well. You mentioned Van Dijk. I think one person who's very, very fortunate to carry on playing is Ibu Konate, because a shadow of his former self at the moment. So, he also could have been dropped. We saw Kirkes have a bit of a poor run, and he was dropped for Robertson. Robertson then went away with Scotland, whatever. Kirkes has come back in. So that's why you have a squad of players. So to automatically think that I've earned the right to start, you are, in some walks of life, I'm afraid, only as good as your last game. And And, and if you want to keep at those levels, you have to perform at those levels. So, for me, I think it's a perfect storm at the minute where Liverpool are really suffering in terms of results, in terms of performance, in terms of mentality. How often, did we see Liverpool, one, lose at home? We seem to be losing at home quite often now. And two, going 2 goals up and capitulating. And again, we can't seem to hold leads. We seem to go behind. We needed 90th minute winners at the start of the season to get us over the line. So it seems to be a perfect blend, a perfect storm. And for Mo going to AFCON, he's asked his mum and dad, hasn't he, to come to the Brighton game, because he said it might be the last one for Liverpool. And again, for me, it puts a lot of pressure on Mo, because now the next time he does start, he's really got to perform. He's got to do something spectacular to basically vindicate himself in terms of, well, this is why he should have picked me all along. Because if he doesn't, then it just proves that Slot was right. So you've got this dynamic where it's now been created where one person's wrong, one person's right. Which one's it going to be? And that's going to be the narrative against Brighton. And is it going to be Mo's last game? We need the points. We absolutely need a win and a good performance and a controlled performance. But now the narrative from everybody watching at football, everybody is now going to be, it's Mo Salah.
Yeah. All eyes are definitely on him now.
Like and subscribe to the LFC Total Red Football Podcast on YouTube.
Arne Slot tonight has done his press conference for the game against Milan tomorrow. And he's come out and said in that, obviously, he's not weak, if that's what, people are thinking of him now. He denies the situation with Salah has undermined him. It's a difficult one because now he said it, it's out there. It's not going to be taken back, and I look at it now, as you've just said, one or the other is going to come out on top on this one. I don't know how it's going to play out because the club themselves haven't really commented as a club to say, well, he was wrong or he was right or whatever. And I wouldn't expect them to. But behind the scenes, they're probably fuming that it's now out in the public domain. He did also say after tomorrow's game, they'll look at the situation. There's always a possibility to return for a player. He doesn't have a clue if he's played the last game for Liverpool or not. As we said, he's asked his parents to come to the game because he was going off to AFCON after that anyway. And I've been talking to my brother tonight about it, actually. And I said, well, once he goes to AFCON and the transfer window opens in January, the club have a decision to make. They've got until the end of January. Are they going to try and move they're going to move Salah on? Or potentially, because let's not get away from the fact Liverpool have been struggling anyway. Who's to say that after Christmas, the Slot's even still in charge? Now, it's a different subject for a different show. But by the end of the transfer window, we could have a different manager and they're going, yes, Salah, you can come back now. But don't be kind of gobbing off like that. And I think there's so many things here that could happen. But straight away, the club, as soon as the game is out of the way tomorrow, they've got to look at this and say, right, come into the office, put your gripes out there, put it all on the table, and let's see where it goes from here. I personally think it's made Slot, probably it's given him more power, I think, because it basically looks to a lot of fans that Salah is just having a go where Slot was struggling and he was under pressure for the results. But now, in a way, the club are going to double down and back him more. Because as we know, we always say it, no player is bigger than the club. End of story. Because if that is the case, then it's never going to get back in the box type thing. Then it'll always be. We know players have a lot of power now, but if the player dictates kind of thing, if that manager's there or not, then that kind of accusation is to change it. Then forever and a day, then football's done. I think at that point. And I do wonder, I think it's how do you come back from this? Does Slot say to him, okay, mate, you can come back this weekend, but basically you've got to apologise and you do it my way. Otherwise, you're not going to be on the side. You'll never play for him again. Technically, he could say, couldn't he? So it's like, it's a hard one.
I know. And I think the best apology is showing it on the pitch. Football fans are fickle. I did see some horrendous stuff over social media, the burning of the shirt and things like that. I'm convinced it's Man United fans just trying to get likes and they're posing as Liverpool fans. But football fans are fickle. If he plays against Brighton, scores 3 goals, everyone's gonna.
Oh yeah,
And rightly so. We don't want him to go. We don't want him to go, and neither Slot's not going to sell him, is it? So it's one of those that is there a hierarchy above Slot in Hughes and Edwards? Thinking, okay, he's not really performing. Semenyo's got a £65 million release fee for January. We could sell Salah for 80 million and then cash in on Semenyo, and there's some future proofing. I don't know.
Yeah.
Nobody will know apart from those people at the top. So is that what Salah's alluding to? I generally don't know. But in terms of what can Salah do, Slot for me isn't one to hold a grudge. I don't think he's as stubborn as what Jurgen was. I don't think he will give him the Sacco treatment straight out the door. But at the same time, Salah has to perform on the pitch, and that's the way to get back in, and that's the way where this all gets resolved. Because if he doesn't perform on the pitch, he's going to want out anyway. And if he doesn't perform on the pitch, and neither do the Liverpool team, will Slot's out anyway. The happy ending in this is eventually when Mo comes back, and hopefully he does, he continues to build what is an amazing legacy at Liverpool Football Club. That's the happy ending. I can't see anything happening until after AFCON. And as you've quite rightly said, transfer window's been and gone. Who's to say if he's still in a Liverpool red, or is he plying his trade now in Saudi? For those who care about what the bookies think, he's 6-1 on to join a Saudi Arabian team. Wow. So heavy bookies favourite. So it's a bit of a strange situation, really, and I really hope that he's not tarnished any legacy at Liverpool. That is my worry, that he will go down as somebody who was an absolute legend, but this now gets in the way. It stinks a little bit of that Ronaldo interview. Where Ronaldo was on the way out and he's just unleashed on Manchester United. It stinks a little bit like that. It doesn't leave a good taste in fans' mouths. And I don't know, he must have been a very frustrated figure to go out and to do what he did.
Yeah. So do you think this can be resolved? I mean, do you think possibly he might be in the squad, even get on the pitch or start on Saturday? Or do you think they'll keep him out the limelight now unless everything's sorted straight after the Milan game on tomorrow night, Tuesday? If they can get into the office and be like, right, let's thrash this out, it could be resolved by the weekend and go, don't worry about it, it's all brushed under the carpet, we're sorted. But do you think it can be resolved that quickly, or do you think this is going to rumble on for a while?
I think they might be right to leave him out of the Milan game. I personally, whichever way it goes, I think he deserves a send-off. If they are generally thinking about he is going in January, he absolutely deserves a send-off. Even if he's on the pitch for 20 minutes, the final 20 minutes, I think we're saying about people aren't owed or earned anything, but I think he has earned that. He has earned a send-off in front of the Kop for the last, even if you don't want to start him, come on for the last 30-20 minutes. What's everyone got to lose? At this point, what have people got to lose? Either comes on and stinks the place out and you're justified, or he comes on, plays really, really well, and then the conversation then ends. He goes off to AFCON, and then it all is what it is. He might wave at the Kop. I'm sure he will do, because he does every game, and it'll get read into, won't it? But it's one of those that I think he's earned the right, if he is going, for fans to say goodbye to him, for them to sing his song again. And if it's for the last time, he's earned it. If it's not for the last time, great, because the way he plays for Liverpool again is by being the Mo Salah we saw last season and all of the seasons beforehand. So I would like to see him in the squad for Brighton. If he doesn't start, fine. I'm okay with that, as long as we've got someone who is in form and does start. With Gakpo, by the way, is out for a few weeks, Slot said. So maybe Chiesa goes on that left, maybe Wirtz goes on the left, maybe Szoboszlai goes on the right, maybe Ekitike goes on the left. So with Gakpo being down, there is another slot now that has been opened in that front three. So maybe it opens it up just naturally for Salah, because for some reason Arne doesn't really like playing Chiesa too often.
No.
You know, McAllister's out of form. Does he stick with the Jones, Szoboszlai, Gravenberch, or does he stick Szoboszlai on the right? Like, you just don't know. But either way, whoever he starts, I think Salah has to have some involvement absolutely at the weekend.
You can follow the LFC Total Red Football Podcast on X, Facebook, YouTube, and TikTok.
Now, I did pick out a couple of comments on social media, etc. None of them are hateful because I'm not going to do that. But, one of them says he's a top player, but this suggestion that he doesn't need to fight for his place every day and that he's earned it is perhaps maybe pointing towards the problem. Another one says he's been dropped for a mere 2 or 3 games and has immediately gone into PR damage control by attacking the club who have been so good to him while they're having a bit of a low point themselves. And another one was saying, obviously if I earned £400,000 a week reportedly, and the fans love you, then really what have you got to whinge about? Now we know it's never as clear cut as that. At the end of the day, players are not robots, they're people. They have their own thoughts and emotions and everything. And like we said, with the passing of Diogo Jota, I'm not going to keep saying that's the problem, but things like that affect everything. So Salah being dropped in his head has become a major problem. So to him, it's the big problem. That's why he spoke about it. And I just think to myself, well, I'm sure there must have been better ways to get this resolved in a different way. He could have gone into the manager differently and said, I'm not liking where I am with this. It's not really good. As we've already said, he's not in the squad for tomorrow's game against Inter Milan. He trained today as normal, and there's no reports of any issues or anything. He's fit, and at the end of the day, he's still world class. Would it have been weak for Liverpool to put him in, do you think, and just go as if nothing had happened? But then you're putting one of your best players in the world, because you're trying to get, at the end of the day, you're trying to qualify for the Champions League. Because as we all know, if you don't qualify, it's going to be a disaster. So I think, were they right to leave him out, do you think?
I think they're right to leave him out of Milan just to take him out of the firing line. Like I said, he's put himself under immense pressure now. Away in the form that we're in against Inter Milan, who is a great, really good footballing side, really sound defensively. We struggle against back fives anyway. It just adds more pressure to Mo Salah, I think, taking him out of that firing line, making the narrative just Liverpool against Inter Milan. Yes, he's going to be spoken about, but at the same time, Milan away, is it really the best game for him to come back in? Just, picking up on what a few of those comments said as well, in terms of it's only been 3 games. Yeah, it has. And that's why I think there might be other things going on behind the scenes, because yes, it is only 3 games, but for him to come out with all of those comments and basically scatter gunning and cluster bombing everything and going after the media and Jamie Carragher and mentioning Harry Kane and Erling Haaland and the Liverpool hierarchy and Arne Slot, there's a deep unhappiness there, and it goes beyond just being sat on the bench for 3 games. You would think, maybe he does have that much of a fragile ego that is actually, no, I just don't like to be sat on the bench. I don't think it's that. He wasn't a I don't know how to say, he wasn't a born superstar like a Cristiano Ronaldo and a Messi. Let's not forget the days that he was at Bale, that he was at Fiorentina, Roma, Chelsea. He wasn't a bona fide superstar. He was that at Liverpool.
Yeah.
So for me, I think there's more indication about behind the scene. Maybe there is already or has already been conversations of, listen, when the window opens, we are going to sell you. And maybe that happened a while ago. We don't know. So
I'll be honest, Rich. I've heard. I was chatting, like I say, I was chatting to my brother who is a huge Liverpool fan himself, and he was saying that I think is it Paul Gorst has said that he asks him every time they come past the mix zone, do you want to do an interview, Mo? And it's always like, no thanks, as a smile carries on. And this time he asked it. He said it's become a bit of a running joke, and he asked him, and he said, just give me a chance to go to the shower, and I'll come back to you. Now that tells me that he had something to say. He knew he was going to say something, but he went away to the shower and then came back. And I think that to me shows it's probably premeditated, like you say. So it's not a spur of the moment coming off and frustrated because I've been on the bench for 3 games. Like exactly what you said. This has been bubbling, I think. And he's thought about it and thought, right, now's my time to strike by saying, I'll come back to you. I've got something to say type thing.
Yeah, it's almost not off the cuff, is it?
Yeah, this is it. So I think it's definitely something going on at that club behind the scenes, whether it's with Edwards, whether it's with Slot, Hughes, or anybody else. There is definitely some unhappiness there to make this explode like it has. Now, who's going to come out on top? I have no idea. Ultimately, the club, if they can get something from Saudi Arabia, possibly, because they've always wanted Mo Salah, and they're willing to pay a lot of money. And you think to yourself, well, that could really benefit, like you said, benefit the club with different targets instead. And whether that's the plan all along to unsettle him, to make him leave, I don't know. Reportedly he's on £400,000. It's a lot of money. And if you're not performing, and I think to myself, is there underhand tactics here to get him out? That would seem outrageously mad and far-fetched. But then you think to yourself, no, but we're talking about a football club. And things like this happen where people get tapped up, or people, nudge, nudge, wink, wink, do this, and you can move on. And it's like, I'm absolutely gobsmacked, I'll be honest, because I didn't expect it. It's just come so much. And like I say, all the rubbish that we're putting up for the last few months, really, and this on top now is like, that is literally the cherry on the top of the cake of unhappiness for this season. And it's just madness.
And it's a perfect storm that's been brewing, isn't it? And that's exactly what it's come down to. And then this, it really it shows, one, how far Liverpool have come over the past decade, because my phone has not stopped with, my friends who are Man United fans or Newcastle fans, like just popping off and sending memes about Salah.
Oh,
and, the merges between Salah and Ronaldo, and the burning of the shirt and stuff like that. And we've dominated under Klopp and Slot last year, and now it feels like, oh man, it's our turn now to struggle for a little bit. While Arsenal are flying high and City look, back to where they should be. And now we're having the player capitulation, like we've seen with so many different clubs, really, since Jurgen came in. If I'm honest, we've not really seen it in Liverpool since Jurgen came in. This is the first time, we've had Salah and Van Dijk come out and say, don't know what's going on with our contracts, but nothing in terms of actual attacks. And this does feel like an attack. Again, it's one of those that is a perfect storm. We're not playing well, not picking up results, not doing well at home. And the players aren't playing, and our system is dreadful. And I know it's a conversation for another day. There is no plan B. Plan B is just get every attacker on and see what happens. So all of these things are happening. Mo's not happy. And again, when the results aren't happening, we needed a goal. Fair enough. The Leeds got back into the game, and the Leeds game, I think, is a bit different because we actually did go 3-2 up. West Ham, obviously, we won. And I think that's more because West Ham are so poor, if I'm completely honest. There doesn't seem to be a plan B. And when you need a goal, your top goal scorer that has been over the past decade is sat on the bench. It also doesn't look great.
No.
So, it's a terrible time. And hopefully it doesn't last. I suppose we're due a terrible time because we've had a great past decade. But at the same time, it's still not nice.
The LFC Total Red Football Podcast is available wherever you get your podcasts from. Also available on your smart speaker, or you can watch us on YouTube.
We could talk about this, all night long because it's that controversial, but I don't want to do that, obviously, and we will round up. But I'm going to throw this curveball at you and maybe look at it from the other side. So if Mo Salah stays and it doesn't get any better, ultimately, I think it would cost Arne Slot's job, because, they've said in the press at the end of the day that the FSG are very good. They'll give him time, but ultimately, like any other football club will say, it's results based. So you're only going to get so far, and then they go, right, we've had enough. If Salah does stay and Slot ends up leaving, I've seen a thing today, which is not far-fetched, but it's there, that Xabi Alonso is actually already under pressure at Real Madrid.
Yeah.
And they're discussing his future. And it's like, could they replace him with, Alonso at Anfield? Or, there's rumours that Klopp could come into the end of the season. or even Steven Gerrard may come back in, and there's lots of opinions of plus and minus for every one of those eventualities, or somebody else. I think you've said yourself, maybe Glasner from Crystal Palace. It's like, if Slot does leave because of this or because of results, with or without Salah, circus going on at the side, where do the club go? Because there isn't that many top managers out there.
And I think that's why the board are happy to stay with Slot, happy to keep him where he is, because there isn't that many managers out there. For me, again, stinks of Man United. Give it Giggsy to end of the season. We'll just give it to Steven Gerrard. I'm not a fortune teller. I can't tell you that would be a great decision or not. It doesn't feel like a great decision, if I'm honest, in terms of getting Stevie in. And again, another one who I wouldn't want to tarnish his legend at the club, and I think Stevie would probably agree. So for us, Champions League, it has to be a priority. The title's gone, right? We know that. Even at the moment, say we're out of the League Cup. I don't know what the FA Cup was drawn to 9. I haven't seen it.
They've drawn Barnsley at home in round 3.
Okay. And Barnsley just knocked out Posh at the weekend, Peterborough United. So that could have, So there we go. But we have to get Champions League football. Whoever comes in, whether that's Jurgen, whether that's Stevie, on an interim basis, you have to get that. Whether Slot stays, you have to get that. And I think because of the manager availability, Slot has got that time now. If Alonso, who is under pressure at Real Madrid, gets sacked in the next few weeks, I think that level of pressure is 10 times more ramped up on Arne Slot, because now you actually have a ready-made replacement long term to go in. So I don't think, I do believe Joyce, and I do believe the other journalists who have said FSG are willing to give Slot the time, because until it gets to the point of actually, I don't know if we are going to qualify for the Champions League, and whether that's 4 or 5 spots, I think he's okay, and will be okay until that becomes, now we need to change it, because we're 10th in the league, but actually we're only 3 points off 4th. Now, if we had a win, if we held on another set piece, then, we'd have been right up there now. 25 points, and we would have been 5th, and we're 1 point off. So it's a completely different. At the minute, I think the gap isn't wide enough between us and 4th for Slot necessarily to be worried. Fans might be worried because we don't identify this with Liverpool's style of play. We don't identify Liverpool giving up leads. Absolutely dreadful at set pieces. Every time certain players, and I don't want to call out certain players at the moment, it's not the show for that, get the ball, your heart's in the mouth, because what are they going to do with it? Every tackle that goes in, is it going to be a foul? I don't think we're at that. We're not happy with those performances, but we are still well within touching distance of the top 4, which has to be the priority. So, as I say, I think Slot's job becomes far more untenable should Alonso actually leave Madrid or be asked to leave Madrid.
I suppose going all the way back to the beginning, from my point of view, my opinion is now that Slot's job is actually more safe at the moment because this is going on than less safe. The way I look at it, because the spotlight now is firmly, as you've said as well, it's on Salah. It's either if he plays again, he's got to perform. If he doesn't, Slot will be justified for leaving him out. If he comes back in, it's almost under Slot's regime to say, I'll let you back in, but you're going to do it this way now, mate. So in a way, I think it's strengthened his position more than it's weakened it. It's done it the opposite, I think. And maybe I think now they're looking back, and I've got the feeling that Mo Salah might be looking at this thinking, I may have, might have put my foot in this one. But
And also it could be the genius of Arne Slot to leave Mo out, and he has to play his way back in the team, and now he's back in form. And Slot could very well take all credit here. Even if it does work out and Mo comes back and starts banging in the goals. But, like I said, this AFCON period, probably for everybody involved, couldn't have come at a worse time, because Mo might not even have the chance to do that. Yeah.
Well, as we said at the beginning of the show, it's a very, very explosive situation and crisis at Liverpool FC, obviously involving Mo Salah and Arne Slot and the club in general. everybody's got an opinion about it. We've give ours tonight, as best we can, and we've tried to talk it out. And whether anything is resolved by the weekend, we shall soon see. If he's playing, if he's in the crowd, if he's even in the stadium, we don't know. And then he goes off to AFCON. Has he played his last game? That remains to be seen. How will it end for Arne Slot, Liverpool, and Mo Salah will become clear in the next few weeks. But I want to say a massive thanks to Ritchie for coming on and chatting about it. I hope that it is resolved. I'd love to see Mo Salah back in the shirt. He's a Liverpool legend. And as we say, we're all a bit fickle. If he scored a hat-trick against Brighton, we'd all be like, we're just thankful for the points and it doesn't matter what's happened before that. But we're going to wrap it up there tonight, guys. And thank you so much for tuning in and watching the LFC Total Red Football Podcast.
Thanks for listening. Join us next time for more LFC Total Red Football Podcast.